she happens to be joining, what she'll do is she'll unmute her. So you might see the computer like screen turn.
Okay, will I be able to advance slides for now?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
go down here.
Okay.
You should be able to control it from here.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'll get us started, and if Amy joins us, all the better. So about a year ago, we started talking about the need for our city and county and all of the economic development partners that do work in this team sport we call economic development to align in a new economic development strategic plan for the next 5 years, and you all agreed to invest in that. So in January, we issued an RFP. Amy Holloway Advisors was selected from a group of several different consultants that we interviewed. Some of you were on the advisory group that helped interview and select her. And Amy does work all over the country. She's worked with over 200 communities, some like ours, some much larger. And she's very selective about who she does choose to work with. So I think it's a great compliment to Hutchinson and Reno County that she saw such promise in the work that we're doing that she wanted to put her stamp of approval on the work we're doing and really take a deep dive into learning about us, listening, doing a lot of focus groups, and then providing some recommendations. So this is a really quick summary. And, oh, she's in the room. Wonderful. Okay, did I just click off? Did you admit her? Okay. She was actually speaking at another conference today, got to her hotel, and now she's been in the waiting room or been waiting on us in a hotel room somewhere, probably somewhere out in the Carolinas. Hello, Amy, can you hear us?
Are you able to hear us, Amy? Oh, I gotta unmute my computer. Can you hear us now, Amy? Yes, okay, now I need to make sure that I turn your audio on, so 1 second.
Okay, so while he's getting that queued up, as I was saying, so we selected Amy. She began the work here in May with some kickoff meetings and started working with our advisory group, which was made up of partners from the city, Reno County, several communities around Reno County, our Economic Development Advisory Council, and funding partners, which included the Hutchinson Community Foundation, Startup Hutch, Greater Hutch, and of course yourselves, and South Hutch as well. So this is the advisory group that helped guide the work, but definitely they were not the only voices that informed the work. Amy met with over 350 folks through focus groups, surveys, and other mechanisms. And so with that, Amy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I can't see the video on your end, so I'm just kind of going to talk to myself, but wish I were there in person. And thanks for having me this evening. I'm looking forward to presenting the final recommendations in the Elevate strategy. It sounds like Debra went through the thanks to our funding partners and our advisory group. And I think many of you are already aware of the process that we've gone through. Whoever's clicking, that would be slide 3. Like Debra said, we started this process back in May and wrapping it up here in, oh, there we go. Thank you. That's so much better. Yeah, wrapping it up here in October. I also share on the next slide, a few of the themes that came out in our research, just real quick, because I know that y'all have had a long meeting already, but there's clearly an opportunity to further elevate your economic performance. We've seen some loss across population and jobs over the last few years, and there's a real, I think, hunger in the community to do economic development and turn those trends into positives. Also, obviously, talent pipeline is critical. Housing is a topic that came up over and over again. We've got some lower wages there in the county than some of the benchmark communities, which is causing some of the strain on housing. But overall, I saw real positive energy around the community about investing in economic development and taking us all to the next level. I think that Debra has talked to you also about the cluster approach that we're recommending. Here's the target industry clusters that are included in the strategy. The ones in red are what I would consider to be kind of traditional business attraction targets and the niche segments within each. There's also some entrepreneurship targets and targets of our business retention and expansion efforts. And those things would include making sure that we're still expanding our healthcare offerings, destination retail, and other fun stuff for families. And we're going to do this as a whole community. So this isn't just about Greater Hutch going out and attracting every company they can into the community. This is about creating an environment where these industries want to be, because we've invested in their supply chain and R&D and startup support and talent, policies and infrastructure, and all of those things that make a region competitive for these clusters. So consider that as you're making decisions as leaders in the community. Think about the needs of those industries as you're making decisions about new policies or incentives or infrastructure investments. Getting into the strategic plan, I just want to hone in on a couple of the goals. But this image illustrates the plan as a whole. It's your one-page guide to the Elevate strategy. I joke, and I'm kind of not joking, but I joke that it would be nice if everyone had an image of this, maybe a postcard or something of this on their desk, and they touch base with this anytime they're making their own operational plans or making a decision. These are our holistic goals, countywide goals for economic development and our vision, as well as some guidance on what we're going to do to implement this plan and make sure that it stays going. I'd like to emphasize real quick the middle of that graphic, in the middle of the star. It's how we're going to do work going forward. And I think there's a real commitment from the partners who were involved to continue to elevate and promote the many, many, many strengths that we have. We're going to do this in a way that's very collaborative and aligned. We're going to work together, and we're going to confidently invest in the community. So keep that in mind, a little inspiration for your evening. So there's 5 goals in this strategy, and I'm just going to touch on a few of them. I think what you'll see through these goals is that it reinforces a number of the city's goals. I want to start by saying that I've been in communication with the city's consultants out of Wichita State, and we've been comparing notes along the way. And a good note for you all to know is that we've reached many of the same conclusions. So we're quite aligned in that, and I think you'll see that throughout this. So the first goal is economic development oriented in more of a traditional way. We're aiming to create higher wage jobs and quality investment. There's 3 priorities within this: expanding the jobs that we have and making sure that we're helping our employers generate higher wage jobs. We're also attracting new investment into our community, and then embracing that cluster building approach. And you can see the sample actions from the strategy there below. Within the strategy itself, it gets down into the tactics. In fact, even for each tactic, we're offering the names of the organizations that would take a lead role, as well as the timing for each action. So just because it's just a checklist on the screen, know that there's more content in the strategy itself. One thing that I want to point out here that is that you're not going to be able to do this work without really committing to investing in your economic development effort. And that might mean expanding your economic development team so that you can reach out even further. Second goal is around talent pipeline. You can see the recommendations here. You cannot have a thriving economy without also having a robust talent pipeline. So this goal focuses on upskilling the workers that we have. It focuses on uplifting those individuals who are living at or below that ALICE threshold, kind of our working poor in the community, who are, they're struggling in a lot of ways. And there's a number of approaches that we could take to really hone in on that population and make sure that they're getting in the workforce and accessing higher wage career opportunities. And then finally, continuing to attract and retain skilled workers in the community, really having a deliberate talent attraction campaign over the next 5 years will be very helpful. The third goal is focused on our entrepreneurial ecosystem, that third leg of our economic development stool, if you will. These priorities fall in line with Startup Hutch's strategic priorities. They just finished a strategy within the last year. I think I wanted to make sure that the strategy here for the county reflected their priorities and really highlight the recommendations in their own strategy that tie directly into our countywide entrepreneurial efforts and countywide economic development strategy. So you'll see the list there. Goal number 4, modern sites and infrastructure. I know over the last few years now, you all have identified and gotten options on some great sites. You've invested some in those sites and preparing them for investment. I'm going to encourage you to continue to invest in sites and infrastructure. We need to get ahead of the skate to where the puck is going to go, essentially. So just because we have a couple of sites, at the rate that you're going and with all the assets that you have, I feel pretty confident that you're going to have a lot of interest in those sites. And just as companies are locating on those sites, you're going to need more. So please continue to invest in that. Really focus on expanding and strengthening your water infrastructure in particular. And there you'll see the third priority within this goal. I'm going to call them out, but there is a whole lot of potential there at the Hutchinson Regional Airport for not just providing sites for future business investment, but also as almost a community marketing tool, making sure that they've got really modern facilities and expanded facilities that we can accommodate more private and corporate jets. Having people land there and get exposed to the community through that's going to be a tremendous asset, and that's kind of your target audience in a lot of ways, as decision makers coming into the community on aircraft. And finally, this isn't a final. These goals are, all 5 of them are as important as the others. So don't take that as an indication of quality of life being last on the list. In fact, I think it's the bow that kind of ties all of this together. So quality of life recommendations include things like making sure that we've got we continue to invest in quality housing options and quality childcare. You've made huge progress in those arenas, but there's more needed. Creating family-friendly amenities and energized downtowns. We've seen that your community has been losing that young professional and young family demographic, and we need to make sure we're investing in things in the community that retain them. It's absolutely tied to economic development and your future potential to grow your economy. And then the final one, this is something that we heard from the community. As Debra said, I've engaged with over 300 people there in this process. And time again, people said, we really want our communities to be beautiful places. And they've said too, and I agree with them, that we should strive to have a zero tolerance for blight attitude. So accelerating efforts to eliminate blight, it's only going to boost the confidence of the folks living there and make you an even more attractive location for the companies and talent that you want to have in Reno County and Hutchinson. So with that, I know that this is a lot of information, and hopefully you've all received a copy of the strategy so you can dig in, but I want to offer a few recommendations to conclude. First of all, economic development is a team sport. And when I was engaged to help you with the strategy, the first thing on people's mind was making sure that leadership organizations, public sector, private sector, nonprofit, education, all of those organizations are in alignment and they're walking in step towards building this economy, and that our actions are connected. So start your implementation by establishing an implementation team of the organizations that are going to play a role in implementing the strategy. And this next slide shows you the way that kind of an economic development ecosystem lays out and the traditional roles and responsibilities for various organizations. And you have many of these. I don't think that you have all of them just yet, but over time you will. So there's a list of what a traditional economic development organization would do, as well as what a chamber would do, as well as what local government is responsible for, and entrepreneurial organizations. You can read this for yourself, but this should give you a nice reference point as you're going through and saying, well, who would be responsible for implementing that? Or we have a new opportunity, we're not sure who should handle it. Look at this list as a starting point. This is based on leading practices from across the country. It's not just Amy pulling stuff out of the sky. So, look at this and use this as a tool for deciding who does what. Good. And then there's a few other recommendations when it comes to implementation. We're recommending a countywide community image campaign branded as the Elevate Reno County Image Campaign. And that campaign can have a lot of really fun tentacles and efforts to boost confidence across the county and within our towns and cities and help people who live there know that what they say about the community and kind of their enthusiasm for it does radiate outward, and it does impact your ability to attract and retain good companies and talent. So remind people of all of the good things that you have to offer there, and I've offered a number of recommendations. I hope to see some of these come to life over the next 5 years. I think that this would be a really neat initiative for everyone there. And then finally, it wouldn't be a strategy without thinking about dollars and how we measure progress. So I've offered a few recommendations on how to fund this. We will need to resource this strategy. Of course, you've got a fundraising team who's going to be stepping in right as I'm leaving or kind of passing the baton over to them. That's one part of this. But there's a number of other tools that you can employ to make sure that we have really good, robust resources to implement. And then finally, I think the last slide is about measuring and reporting progress. What's measured matters in these strategies. So we're recommending, I think there's 7 kind of leading indicators I would advise you to follow and track on an annual basis and report back out to the community to look at our progress. You could even compare yourselves again to those benchmark counties that we included in our own analysis. There's other indicators you could include, but these 7, like GDP per capita, salary levels, job growth, growth in that early career population, educational attainment, these are all important measures, and the data for these measures are all available through public sources. So just get a good research brain behind this and make sure that you're tracking those numbers and reporting out on at least an annual basis. And with that, this is a sample of the implementation table that I talked about earlier. This is just again, a snapshot of the one for the first goal, but know that this level of detail is available for every goal in the strategy. And with that, I'm going to answer any questions you have. And I know Debra is there to answer questions as well, since I can't see your smiling faces right now, but I'm here for you if you want to discuss anything. Thank you. There you are.
Yep.
Hi.
And then, yep.
Thank you, Amy. I think we are really privileged to have been able to work with Amy, and I know she said she's kind of leaving us now with the baton to move into implementation, and one of the big steps is securing funding. So at the same time we selected Amy's firm for strategic planning, the Chamber and Greater Hutch and Startup Hutch are working hand in hand with a firm called Opportunity Funding that are going to be working with us on our fundraising strategy over the next few months so that we can properly resource all of the things that we need to put this fully into implementation. But Amy, she won't leave us completely. I mean, I think she's probably on call when we need her, but this is your opportunity to ask her some questions, so fire away.
No questions, but thank you for Amy. Thank you to Amy for agreeing to step in and do this work. We kind of went away from the model of figuring this strategic plan out by separating the fundraising from the actual planner. So, and everybody was willing to do that because we liked what Amy had to say. So,
thank you.
I guess my question's more for you as far as what the next step is for getting everyone in the community on board. Is it a community meeting? Here's what we're learning. Where are our gaps in organizations that we need to? I mean, we have a chamber and we have a city council, but where are our gaps in some of those slides? Right.
When you look at all those different kinds of organizations that are traditionally involved in a holistic plan like this, we do have most of those. There's some CDFIs and CDCs that aren't really local to us, but we can tap into those resources when we need to. But almost all of those interest groups are represented, and many of them are already on the advisory group. But when we presented this to the county 2 weeks ago, we were at South Hutch last week. We're going to be in Haven, I think November 6th. I'm skipping over Bueller, October 28th. We're going to be in Highlands, I believe, November 10th. We're going out to each and every community across Reno County to present the same information so that everyone in Reno County can see their place and their role in elevating Reno County together, because it really is the work of all of us. It's not just one organization. We also met with the Economic Development Advisory Council, the Startup Hutch Board, and some of the board members of the Community Foundation in a work session while Amy was here on the 8th. And, we posed the question to people in that room, like, do you see yourself in this work? And many people started citing examples of ways that they see that they could get involved. And so my charge for the community is, if you see yourself wanting to really be on the team of working hand in hand for implementation on any one of these goals or strategies, reach out to us at the chamber. We're going to have an advisory group meeting on October 31st to kind of like do a level set and then start the implementation phase and seek other volunteers. When we get into capital campaign mode, there's going to be a lot of other subcommittees that we need to be involved. So I encourage people that want to get involved in that work and see what it's like behind the scenes, the more the merrier. But, I think economic development, we all have a role in some of the direct project work, but just like getting involved in cleaning up neighborhoods, Amy said there was so much that came out of the surveys and focus groups about cleaning up our communities, and everyone can have a small hand in that. I think when Bueller met recently and talked about housing, they even talked about, could students at the schools get involved as volunteers and do a paint, brush up day, like we have Brush Up Hutch, but really engage volunteers. And that was Amy encouraged us to look at I think it was Asheville's United Way, how they have a really strong volunteer core that goes out and does community projects. So the numbers of ways that we can get people in the community involved in this is really limitless. I just think now we just have to dig in, take the plan, a bite at a time, but really engage people in the work.
Hutch does that. So if you guys need any tips, we'd be happy to share with Bueller or any of the other schools. I think seeing it broken down into the buckets with the different partners at the top and essentially the tasks underneath is really helpful. That makes it feel less daunting of, here's this big nebulous goal that we're working toward. It's more, here's everybody's place and here's how we move forward, and there's progress to be made on each individual item, meaningful progress that even if one gets stalled, the other parts can keep moving and keep advancing towards the goal, because everything should be making progress eventually. And it doesn't feel like there are pieces that are hinging upon one another that you'd potentially get stuck on, essentially, that would cause your whole plan to collapse. So this plan feels very comprehensive. I watched the presentation to the county also. I think they had good questions too. I think as a whole, having sat in on one of those and hearing from the other committees that provided input, there was a lot of work that went into this, and now there's a lot of work to do as well. But
Well, I really love how you're exactly right. Breaking it down into the strategies and assigning roles and responsibilities was a big piece of what we wanted Amy to weigh in on for us. We can still, she can't read our minds. There are still going to be gray areas where there are different organizations involved in some of the strategies. But that saying of many hands make light work, I think it takes all of us working together to make this successful. And just like tonight, where you're talking about and acknowledging the investments we need to make in water and wastewater, issuing bonds so that we can secure the water rights that we need for the future, investing in modern sites and infrastructure like we've been doing are long game goals, but they're going to pay off in the high wage jobs. And you've seen us out front and center recently on some really big attraction opportunities to bring high wage jobs to Hutchinson and Reno County. So it all plays hand in hand. It's, then when you get the site visit here and they want to see the community, that's where the community needs to show well. And so we need to be doing the things that make our community show well to newcomers. And look, the work Carissa was speaking to tonight with housing development. Each and every piece of this is just so important. We already have the wheels in motion. This just really validates that we're doing the right things and gives us a playbook for the next 5 years. So I'm excited about it, and I appreciate you guys investing in it.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. To me, looking through this, it really solidifies to me the whole aspect of our community coming together as a whole. So we're all headed in the same direction. so that we don't have one entity over here to the left doing something and not being in line with everybody else. I just think this plan really puts us together, so we can focus on where we need to head to as an entire community, not just individually. So I think this is a great thing.
And Amy's advice about let's put the 5, pieces of the star on our desks. Let's make it our North Star. Let's run everything that we do when we're making decisions through, does this fit the plan? And are we investing in the right things? You can use that as your litmus test. And if we use that as our guiding star for the next few years, I think we're headed in the right direction. So thank you all. Anything else for Amy? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.